Right. Hello, everyone. So my main topic today is on data modeling. And under that, we discuss one of the techniques that we have used to model databases, which is use of entity and relationship diagrams last time. So what I'm going to do today, from that onwards, we are going to go to what we call the logical diagrams, which means we transform our conceptual diagram we have drawn using ER into logical diagram where we will have tables. So what we are going to do is once you have the table structure, next week we are going to start with the Oracle database system using Express Edition. We are going to create tables physically. So the first few session actually again next week, we are going to talk about the theory in SQL. And then we are going to, implement those so that you are comfortable with both the theory as well as the practically database implementation. So remember, in this module, we are going to cover both aspects. We will provide you the theoretical basis of databases as well as hands-on practical experience with Oracle database management system. Again, remember this is interactive session. Whenever you have questions, you are feel free to talk to me, or you can use the chat sessions. And today, especially since this is actually although we say this is a theory, after this the first theory part, hopefully within 30 minutes or so, you are going to have a group work. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put you into groups, and I will give you a small description, which we have discussed last time, similar to that, where you are going to try to model it using the techniques that we have discussed. So therefore, as I told you in the last time, at the end, you have to have some understanding about the ER diagrams. Also, very important, you should also understand how do you transform these ER diagrams into what we call the relational schema, meaning you convert the diagram, this conceptual diagram into a relation. So I'm going to show you how we are going to do this. Right. So let me start with a very brief review of ER diagrams. Right. Now, data modeling is very important in case if you are asked to develop a database, especially from the start, which means, let's say it's a new database which you have asked. So we discussed last time, you start collecting information about the database. So you normally start with the description. And when we say ER model, we will use modeling technique, which is visual, so that you can actually express yourself, your design, even for the non-technical guy. So that's the idea of ER model, right? So that's why we have discussed ER diagrams in the theory. So the main concepts that you should be familiar with are what we call the entity types, relationship types, as well as attributes. Other than that, we will also talk about cardinalities, which we mean what kind of a relationship you have with among the entities, whether it's one-to-one, one-to-many, or many-to-many, and also the total and partial participation. So those are the very important concepts when we build ER models. Right. So this is the example that we have discussed last time. This description is about and comparing. So when you're given a description like this, you should identify main concepts, which I discussed early, which means you should identify entity types, right? So if you look at this description, the entity types are capitalized. For example, if you look at the first sentence, there you can see department. So that is an entity type. If you look at the second statement, project is an entity type. If you look at the third statement, employee It's an entity type. And last one, dependent. It's also entity type, right? So I hope you got the idea. So these are the concepts that we want to represent in the ER model. So ideally, these entities will be tables in your database. So I'm going to discuss how exactly you are going to transform this today. So I hope you understood the idea of entity types. Then the second one is you have to identify the attributes. So simply, you need to remember these attributes which will describe the entity types. For example, department, we have unique name and a number. So the name, number, they are what we call the attributes. Similar to that, if you look at the second statement, name and number and location, they are attributes of project. If you look at the third one, employee, name, social security number, address, salary, sex, date, birth date, these are known as attributes. So simply attributes will describe the entity type. Then dependent, name, sex, date of birth date, and relationship, they are attributes. Okay, now that we have discussed about the entity types and the attributes, the third one we should familiar with this is relationships. So among these entities, we have relations. For example, if you read, you can see employees works for departments, right? So it says each employee works for department. So works is a relation, right? So now I describe three things: entity types, attributes, and then relations. Okay. Now, when you want to represent this graphically, we use different symbols that also we discussed last time. So here are the symbols we will use. So entity, we use rectangle box like this. Relationships, diamond shaped block like this. Attributes, we will have ellipse or ovals, right? Like this. Okay. So having said that, if you go to the diagram will look like this. So for example, we talk about employee, right? So employee is an entity type. So it's inside the rectangle block. And each simple attributes you can see in ellipse directly connected to this, which indicates that these are attributes of employee entity type. Similar to that, in department, we have name, number, and locations. Right. Then relationships. Now you can see relationships represent like this. You have a diamond shaped block like this, and the lines indicate that they are connected. So employee works for department. So you can see that's the basic representation. Right. Now I want to explain a bit more about different types of attributes. Now, if you have just an ellipse like this, these are known as simple attributes. Social security number is a simple attribute. Birth date, simple attribute. Salary, simple attribute. Then we have compound attributes. Compound means, for example, name is a compound attribute, which means name consists of three different parts. Frame, first name, last name. For example, sometimes we want to represent names as initials and the surname. Similar to that, sometimes address, we can have several components like street number, city, postal code, right? If you have a situation like this, this is known as a compound attribute. But this compound attribute, these are simple attributes. Okay. So now I hope you understood the different types of attributes. We have simple attributes, we have compound attributes. Then we have multi-valued attribute. You have double low, so double ellipse. So departments are in multiple locations. When you have multiple locations, we are using double loads. For example, let's say we have a, okay, let me take car. Okay, well, let's say we have a car entity type, right? And then let's say we have a color. Now you know that some vehicles, we have multiple colors. So that means if you're thinking about representing a car with multiple colors, so we can put it like this. So the car entity type, we have multi-valued attribute. So similar to that is double over. So the double ellipse will represent, okay, this is a multi-valued attribute. Finally, you can calculate some attributes based on other attributes. For example, number of employees is a calculated one. So if it is a calculated attribute, we call derived attribute. You will use dashed ellipse like this. So for example, we have a birth date. Now let's say you want to have age attribute. So age attribute will be a derived attribute. So we will use dash ellipse like this to represent age, which indicates that it's calculated. Okay, so I hope now you understood the 4 different types of attribute we discussed. Simple attributes, compound attributes, multi-valued attributes, and derived attributes. Okay, so now we discuss entity types, right? And then attributes, and then relationships. Okay, then I would like to discuss key attributes. Now, entities, when you are defining entity types like this, you have to have unique attributes. Unique attributes are very important because then using unique attributes, we can uniquely identify each of the records. For example, employee, you can see we have social security number underlined. Social security number means similar to in Sri Lankan context, it's national ID. It's unique, right? So for unique attributes, we underline it. So you can see the department has unique name. So name is underlined. Unique number is underlined. So you can have any number of unique attributes. For example, employee, we can have think of, okay, national ID will be unique. Driving license number will be unique. Passport number will be unique. So for a given entity type, we can have multiple key attributes, right? Now, when you can identify key attributes, these entity types become regular entity. So employee is a regular entity type. Department is a regular entity type because we have key attributes. Project will be a regular entity type because we have key attributes, unique values. But if you think about the dependents, for example, employee, wife, their son and daughters. So according to this one, you can see name, sex, date of birth, and the relationship. And you can see dash line, which indicates that it's a partial because name can be duplicate, right? For example, think of father and mother is working in the particular company and their son and daughters are common, which means you cannot uniquely identify, which means this is known as partial key. So when you have a situation like this, we cannot identify a unique attribute. Then this becomes what we call the weak entity type. So weak entity types, we are using double rectangle like this. So this double rectangle indicates that, okay, you don't have a unique key. So that means when you want to uniquely identify this particular entity type, you have to get the key from this relation, which means this is connected to the employee from employee key attribute, right? So that's why this one is we indicated using double rectangle, and this connection is also double line, and this relation is also double uh, diamond shape block we use to indicate that this is a weak relation, right? Okay, now if I review, we discuss what is entity type, we discuss attributes, different types attributes, relations, regular entity types, and weak entity types. Any questions on these, please? Because you are going to get a small, exercise. So you need to clear about the basic concepts that we have discussed under this. Any questions, please? Okay. Let me check the chat. Okay, nothing. Assuming that, yes, Sanjay.
Yeah. So you make, are you privy to make assumptions or all the data are given and then you make based on judgment? How do you do that? I'm not sure.
Yeah. So I hope you remember that we have discussed what happens in the database design. Usually you collect the data. So once you collect the data, it'll be something like some kind of a description, what we see here. As you correctly said, some of this information might be missing. Sometimes you have to make your own assumptions. So usually what we say is you collect your data requirements like this. And when you actually develop the conceptual diagram, you will realize that some information is missing. For example, if the information is missing, you have to make your own assumptions. And you clearly indicate when you are designing a ER diagram like this. So which means, of course, as you correctly said, sometimes these descriptions are not complete. There could be some missing information. So as a designer, you have to make your own assumptions.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you for the question. Right. Now, let me explain a bit more about other things. Now, for example, employee manages department, which means like a head of the department, right? And you can notice here the starting date of the manager is connected to the relation, because this is not belong to any of these. It's not, you cannot directly connect here, which because you can connect, but then you know that not all the employees will be managers. So, and you cannot connect this to the department because it directly depends on the employee. So the ideal place to put this is to the relation like this. So you can notice the manager start date is connected to the manager's relation. Number of hours particular person works for a project is connected to the works on relation. Right. Now let me discuss last two ideas. That means type of relations between these entity types. Now, after you create the relations, the next thing is you need to identify whether the relation is one-to-one, one-to-many, or many-to-many. This is called cardinality, which means we are going to identify the maximum participation. Let me explain. Now, according to the description, we can say employees works for department, right? So take one employee. If you take an employee can works only for one department. Remember, max is one. We are actually focusing the maximum. So therefore, we put one here. This one indicates that employee works for one department. Right. Let me get the other way around. Take the department. How many employees works for the department? Of course, you have to have more than one, right? It's called many. So we put N here. So this is known as many to one, or you can say one to many relation, right? Okay. Then let me take this relation. Employees, not all, some employees manages the department, meaning like employee uh, works as a manager in the department. So this relation is called managers. So take a one employee, he can manage maximally one department. Sorry. So if you take a particular employee, he can manage maximum of one department. That's what it means, one. Let's take the department side. Department can have one employee as a manager. So that's what it means. Therefore, this relation is known as one-to-one relation. Right. Let me explain the third one. Employees works on projects. So if you take a particular employee, he can work for many projects. So that's what N here. If you take one project can have many employees. So you have M here, right? So which means this is known as many to many relation. So we can represent when you take a relation, whether it's a one-to-one, one-to-many, or many-to-many. Okay, let me give an example, and can you give me, okay, can you give me one-to-one relationship in a university environment? Since I have taken university as the example last time as well. Can you think of one-to-one relation in a university environment?
A student will belong to a single department.
Okay, so that means one side you have a student, right?
Yes.
You have student one side and you have a department other side. Now remember, when you won't have relation, you have to look at both sides.
Okay.
So let's take one student belongs to one department. So we can put one. Okay. Take the department.
And how many?
Students you can have?
Many.
Many, right? So actually, if you look, connect students with the department, it will be one to many relation. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Anyway, good try. Okay, deans of faculties, good. Let's say dean. Okay, we have dean and you can have faculty, right? So you have a dean and a faculty. Okay, we have a relation which connects, right? Okay, so take a dean, he'll be a dean for a faculty, so it will be one. Take a faculty, can have only a dean. Of course, it's one-to-one relation. Inuri, yes, your answer is correct. Anuradha, what do you think about the student to research?
What I meant was the individual research by
Exactly.
single.
If you say individual research, yes, it's one-to-one. So that is assumption. Now you can see. So that assumption you have to make because you know that some research, there are many students. So when you have a situation like this, you have to say that, okay, you are assuming that, okay, student takes one research, and research can have only one student, right? Assuming both, your answer is correct. So for example, one-to-one relation, we can think of university and a vice chancellor. Take the university side, we'll have maximum one vice chancellor, right? Take a vice chancellor, yes, one university. Okay, right. Can you give me a many-to-many relation in a university environment?
It's follow courses,
Yes, courses
or
and
rather the subjects, students and subjects.
exactly. So if you say students and subjects, of course, let me say students and subjects. So we will have a relation to these, right? And then, okay, we can connect these two to indicate that we have relation. Relation could be something like takes. If we take one students, then they can take many subjects. Take a subject can have many students. It's basically many-to-many relation. Good. So I hope now you are comfortable with the cardinality. That means maximum, what do we call participation? Maximum we specify here. For example, why I say maximum? Let's say we have data about mothers and children, right? So if you can list, names, sometimes some might don't have children, but you talk about the maximum value, right? So that's the idea. Anyway, so then the second one we call participation. Participation means, partial, whether it's a total participation or partial participation. So you can see there are two lines in some connections, and there'll be a one line. The two lines, the double lines indicates that it's a total participation. Total participation means all the instances. That means all the employees works for a department, which means we assume that with these two lines, double lines, all the employees should have a department. Similar to that, this double line in this side indicates, right? This will indicate that the department should have employees. There should not be any department without any employees. So the double line indicates that. Okay. So what happens? Now take the managers here. You know that some employees works as managers. This single line indicates that it's a partial participation. Partial means not all the employees works as manager, only some. So when there are like not everyone is participating, this will be a single line. Look at the other side. We have a double line. So the double line indicates that, okay, all the department you have a manager, right? So that's why we have single line and the double lines. We call total or partial. So what you need to do once you identify a relationship type, you have to identify whether it's a one-to-one relation, one-to-many or many-to-many. And then you need to identify whether it's a single line or a double line. Right. Are you comfortable up to this? Can you indicate by raising your hands so that you are comfortable? You can raise your hands within Zoom. Can you please raise if you are comfortable with the description? Meaning that you are comfortable with the idea of entity types, please keep on raising. And then idea of attributes, idea of entity types, then cardinalities, which means one-to-one, one-to-many, and many-to-many, and also the total and partial. Okay, we have 48. Unfortunately, I got only 1/3 of the class. Okay, at least could I be happy saying that at least 1/3 of the class is comfortable? Okay, so I think we'll do a small exercise. Right, what I'm going to do, thanks for raising your hands. I will give you very small descriptions, right? Similar to this. Can you try to come up with a diagram similar to this one, right? So as a help, what I can do is I will show you, no, I actually shared you the slides, right? So hopefully you can access to the description and the diagram, right? By referring these two and together with your friends, the colleagues, can you try to create a simple ER diagram similar to this, right? For a given descriptions. And one thing you need to remember is sometimes these descriptions are not complete, right? Especially whether you want to define whether it's a one-to-one, one-to-many, or many-to-many. Sometimes if you can't figure it out with the description given to you, you have to make your own assumptions. Keep this in mind, right? Are we ready now? Right. So this one you have to send me as a assignment, meaning that you have to upload into the Google Classroom, right? Not today, but you are going to try it now, right? Are we ready? Right. I have 4 descriptions, which means let me try to share the 4 descriptions. Okay. The best thing would be I will upload to the Google Classroom, right? So what I'm going to do, right? I will upload under the classwork. I'm going to upload 4 descriptions. Right. So I'm going to upload 4 diagrams, 4 descriptions, right? Right. So I'm uploading. Let me see whether I can share with you. Right. Yeah. In the chat also I can share you, right? Okay. So I'm going to share you in there as well because it's a bit slow in my machine. So therefore I will send you 4 descriptions. Right. Oh, sorry. It goes to only to Anuradha. Sorry, Anuradha. So I have to send everyone. Right. Okay. So you have got 4 descriptions, right? So let's assume that the first 4 description, we have Dreamland is the first one, hospital is the second one, third one is the movies, fourth one is the university, right? Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to put you in 8 groups, right? Group number 1 and 5 will take Dreamland. You can make a note. 1 and 5 will take the Dreamland. 2 and 6 will take the hospital, right? 3 and 7 will take the movies. Then 4 and 8 will take the university. Right. Ready? Now I'm going to put you in groups. Let me see. Unfortunately, in my Zoom, it is not possible with this link. So that's where I had the issue. Let me check. Unfortunately, yeah. Right. Unfortunately, in my case, it's not possible for us to make breakout rooms. But with the first one, we could have done it. So without disturbing, so let me share one diagram and then let's try to work individually. Sorry about that. Next time I will share whenever we need to have a group, I will create the link from the previous Zoom. Okay, sorry about that. So let's move on to one of these. So I'm going to select, let's select university, right? Okay. So here is the description, right? You can start working on this. I will give you about like 5 minutes. Can you figure out what are the entity types we have? You can give me the answer in the chat. Okay. Can you help me? So given the description, can you tell me what are the entities or entity types? You can answer in the chat. Okay, we have university. Okay. Okay, we have student. Sanjay said student. Ramesh also said. Okay, we have department. Soumya and Prasad said department. Eshan said courses. Okay, we are the courses. Okay. Okay, staff members, Prasad, and then Dilru said staff. Yes. That's all.
Office.
Okay, office. But remember, you have to find attributes. Huh? I'm just putting out. What about that semester? These are the values I get. Office, I will put everything, but just if it is not an entity, just tell me. Remember, if it is an entity, you have to have attributes which describe the entity. Remember? Okay, so I have listed down everything that you told me. Now let's try to identify attributes, right? Let me put green. So what are the, okay, so if you are thinking that, okay, university is a entity type, what are the attributes? Yes. Are there, although this is about a university, can we find any attribute which describe the university? You get my point, right? So for example, if it is an entity, we have to have attribute which describe the entity, remember? Right? So university here, it says it's going to keep track of information on students. But we cannot find anything about the university, right? It's about the university, but there's nothing which describe the university. It's all about the university, but in this particular case, university will not be a right entity, right? Think carefully. But if you look at the student, right? Student, we say we record each student name. Okay, now you can see, right? These are attributes. It's, we talk about student, right? So student name is one attribute, registration number, national identity card number, current address, phone, birth date, gender. So student is an entity. Since I have identified here, I'm going to delete this one, but we know that we have identified entity, student, and these are the attributes. So ideally, in the diagram, what you can do is you can put student in the rectangle, right? So we can have, for example, we can say, okay, student. So hopefully I can type in capital, right? And then, okay, I can draw. So instead of this, let me use. So I'm trying to draw with this PDF. Okay, so let me undo this. Right. Let me use this. Okay, so we will have student, right? And then let me draw a rectangle. Okay, and then we can have all these attributes. So for example, let me put one just to explain, for example, name, right, will be, okay, and then you can draw a line which connects like this in the diagram. You can complete, right? Okay, now can you tell me, let's go to the second one. Student can register for courses offered by department and each course described by course number. Okay, so we have course here. So let me, right, select another. Okay, we have each course. So that means this is another. This is another entity. And let me highlight attributes, course number, course name, course description, number of credits, right? And offering department. You can put this as attribute, but actually, since we have a department, you don't have to, have it as attribute, right? So you can, for the time being, we can highlight, but since it comes from the department, we can make it a relation. Then we have department, we have name, we have a department code, office number, office phone, right? And then we have staff members described with name, phone, and email. Right. But office, we don't have any direct attribute. So this is not a entity type. Right. Then each course we have said, okay, course we have, department we have, staff of MIMS. Then since we have courses here, I can remove this. Semester is also not an, but you can have section. So sorry, we will have section. Right. And then let's think about the attribute. Each section has semester, year, course, section number. Right? Okay. So now we have identified five entity types and attributes. Okay. Can you try to draw this? You can take a paper and you can draw in a rectangle shape like this. We can connect all the names, registration number. So you can put it everything, right? And then similar to, you can draw the course, you can have the department, you can have the staff member and the sections. The next one is you have to identify the relations. Nirmal suggesting, in case if you want to draw it online, you could use Grow and IO, so you can use that. But actually, depending on the database tool that we have used, we can do the same. So that means in our next sessions, I will teach you how to code this. But actually you can draw the ER diagram and you can get the SQL outcome. That is also possible. Right. But I'm not going to teach you another tool to do that. But of course, Nirmal, you can use that. Right. Now, can you tell me, okay, what are the relations? Can you tell me the relations?
Students register for courses.
Exactly. So you can say register as the relation, and then you can connect student with courses. Good. So we can have, let me put some other color, maybe, yeah, this color, which indicates student register for courses. So I will put down whole line so that, okay, student register for courses. So which means the register could be the relation. It's between student and courses. Anything else? Yes, we identified one relation. What are the other relations?
Staff members and departments.
Exactly. So it says each staff member belongs to one department. So we can say, okay, staff members, staff member belongs to departments. Okay, good. Another relation?
One staff member is the head of the department.
Exactly. So one of these works as the head of the department. That means there are two relations between staff and department. So you can say belongs means everyone is belongs to departments, then one of them could be the head, like the manager in our previous description. Good. So we identified three relations. Any other else?
Each student is supervised by a member of the staff.
Exactly. So students supervised by staff members. So there will be a supervision relation between student and staff. Good. Then, yes, according to Nirmal, each course we have several sections. Yes, you can have a contains between course and sections. Then each section taught by staff, right? So between section and a staff, the staff teaching sections. Then courses assigned as a coordinator. So between course and the staff. So some of the staff members coordinated courses. Good. Did I miss anything else?
Office also keeps track of starting dates.
That will be an attribute. So the starting date, I will put in green. This is actually a starting date when began to work in the department. So we have a relationship between the staff and the department. And then the starting date should belongs to that relation. Hope you got my point. So let me put it in a graph. So let me say, okay, so we have what? Okay, I will put this. So we have what? We have staff. Let me say staff. Right, we will say like this staff. And then we will have the department. Right. Okay. And then so these are two entity types. So staff members belongs to department. So we have to have a diamond shaped block, which belongs is the relation belongs. So we have a relation between these two, right? But you can say the office also keep track of starting date when staff member began to work in the department. So we talks about these two relations. And whenever staff member starting work in the department, we keep track of starting date. So the ideal situation should be starting date is an attribute which belongs, right? Which belongs to this relation. Which belongs to this relation. Good. I think we didn't miss anything, right? Can you double check? Did I miss anything? How many relations we have identified? Student, courses, right? And then, okay, we have to have another relation. We missed one actually. What we have missed is courses offered by the department. So we have to keep track that information as well.
Toastmaster.
Yes. So we have what? So the offering department means, right? So between courses and the departments, there are department who offers the courses. So that means offering department, the courses will offered by the departments. So that also we have to identify. Right. So now with that, we have identified all the relationship types. Okay, now shall we start looking at whether it's one-to-one, one-to-many or many-to-many? So when you say student can register for courses, is it one-to-one or is it one-to-many or is it one-to-many? So how do you decide this? How do you decide this? Bhagya, I can hear your voice. Can you mute the... Okay, thank you, Bhagya. Right. So between student and courses, it should be many to many. Take one student, can take many courses. Take a course can have many students. So it's a many to many. Good. Dilru said it's many. Hasit also said many to many. Nirmal also said many to many. Okay, courses are offered by departments. Is it one-to-one, one-to-many or many to many?
Many to many.
Okay, this is very tricky one. The description doesn't say anything about whether the course is offered by a single department or multiple departments. So which means you have to either contact the department and ask how they offer the courses. If you assume, now you have to make assumption here. If you assume that the course is offered by only one department, then it will be one to many. If you assume that course can be offered by multiple departments, then it's many to many. So the both answers are correct. Sanjay said many to many. Sachit said one to many. Sanjay's answer is correct, assuming that a course is offered by multiple departments. So I hope you got my point. So you have to make an assumption here because it doesn't say anything, right? These are the situation we have to handle. Good. Shall we go to the third one? One staff member works as a head of the department. So we have a staff member and the department, the relation is head, or it will be the HOD. So is it one to many, or many to many? Okay, many of you are saying the correct answer. It's one to one, right? Take one staff member, he will mostly work as head, is mostly as one of the heads, right? You normally do not work as heads in multiple departments. Similar to that, if you take a department, mostly you will have one. So definitely it should be one to one. Good. Then let's move on to the next one. Staff member belongs to the department. Staff and department. Is it one to many, or many to many? What do you think? Staff, member, and department. Okay, take the staff member. How many department usually he belongs? Is it one or more? Usually one, right? Then take a department. How many staff members you can have? Many, right? So it should be one to many. The correct answer for that is one to many. You have to consider both sides. Take a staff member. He can be in one department. The description says one department. Take a department. Department can have any number of members, right? So assuming that, we have one to many. Good. So they'll do actually given me the detailed answer as well. I hope now everything is clear to you. Next. Each course staff member is assigned as a coordinator. So there will be a connection between staff member and a course. And the relation will be coordinates, right? So what kind of relationship we have? Take a course, how many staff members? One, right? A staff member, it says a staff member. So then ideally it's one. Other side, it's not very clear. Take a staff member, how many courses you can coordinate? Can you think of that? One side is very clear. For each course, a staff member is assigned as a coordinator. So for the course, you can have maximum of one member. But what about the other way around? Take a staff member. How many courses he can coordinate? It doesn't say anything, right? So if you assume that a staff member can coordinate only one, then it's one to one. If you assume that a staff member can coordinate more than one, then it's one to many. So the both answers are correct. The Shamila, Ayesha, Dilanka, and Prasad said one to one. Assuming, okay, you have to make assumption. You have to say, okay, assuming that the staff member can coordinate only one course. Or else it could be one to many. So you can see there are some places where we have to make our own decisions. Or else in actual scenario, you have to contact the department and you have to get that information. Okay, what about the relationship between the course and the sections? What is the relationship between course and the section? Yeah, if you take course can have several, right? So many. Take a section, should belong to one course, right? Usually. So one to many is the correct answer. Sachit and Ayesha given me the correct, and Kasum given me the correct answer. Good. Then each section taught by a staff member. What do you think? Last one. Each section taught by a staff member. Section, one staff. Staff will teach one section, right? Or is it a multiple section? Let's say you are offering, like, let's say the course has 5 sections, right? What do you think? 5 sections are taught by 5 staff members. Depends, right? If you're assuming that, okay, each section taught by different staff member, then it's 1-to-1. But usually I think you will take multiple sections. Some usually says half of the course, like me, first 3 sections, the other one is the next 3 sections. So the ideally, I would say it should be a one-to-many. It should be a one-to-many. It could be 1-to-1, assuming that every section taught by different staff members. So you can see we have a 3 places we have to make assumptions. Okay, good. But I didn't draw the diagram. So you can use any tool available, like Nirmal said, or else you can draw by hand, complete the diagram, and upload it into the Google Classroom so that you are comfortable with the ER diagram. Any questions, please? Okay. One more thing I didn't discuss. Now, there are regular entity types. There are weak entity types. Can you tell me, out of these entities, what are the regular, what are the weak? So let me explain what are regular mean. Regular means if you can identify any particular attribute as a key attribute. Key attribute means unique one. Then they become regular entities. If you cannot identify, right, uniquely, then it becomes weak. So actually, we can use student will be a regular. For example, student registration number is a key attribute. Course could be regular as well. Usually course number and the course name could be unique usually. Department could be regular because department code is unique. Staff members, unfortunately we don't have any here, but email could be a unique, right? So staff member also a regular. Section is also unique here, but actually, if you carefully think about this, the course, this actually comes with the relation because since you are connected. So actually you don't have to have this attribute here, right? So if you don't have course, staff mobile is also unique, yes. So you can use either phone or email as a unique. So there are two key attributes for the staff member, phone and email. Yes, Dilru, you are correct. Sections could be weak or a regular depending on how you think about it. If you assume that we don't have any attribute uniquely identified, then this becomes weak, right? But I think it's not a major issue. I hope now you have everything to draw the complete ER diagram. So it's a small exercise for you. I want you to draw using this description, the ER diagram, and please submit. Hand drawing is enough, but if you want to use some tool already available, you can use any of the tools, but I'm not going to spend time on that, right? Simple hand drawn submission is enough. Right. Good. Let me explain the last part, on the important part for us for the implementation. The first is the conceptual model that we have discussed. And I think we discussed in this completely. Earlier, I thought of giving you as a group work, but I think it's okay that we have discussed the answer. Right, now let me go back to the second half of this, which is we need to now identify what tables and what relationships we are going to have, right? That is the new part today. Okay. So everything actually we have described last time. Now I'm going to discuss the next part. That means the conceptual, the logical diagram. The logical diagram means we are going to identify what tables and what relations we want to create, right? So that means we need to convert our conceptual diagram. This is what we have discussed, right? We need to convert this into set of relations or table like this. Don't worry about all these lines. I'm going to explain that's what we are going to discuss in this section, right? So that means this diagram, this is a graphical diagram. It's like a pseudo code or a flow chart in programming. This is like, the code that we want to develop for the database, right? So now the question is, given this, how do you get something like this, right? That's what I'm going to explain. So let me again discuss the theory, and then we will have a small exercise from the previous one, right? Now we have already discussed one example. And after finishing this, I want you to try out. We have already discussed this part, drawing that, and then I want you to think about how to convert this. So that's what I'm going to discuss as a theory, okay? Are you ready? Right. Okay, there's a step that we have to follow. This is called going from ER to relational, because we are going to talk about relational databases, I told you. There are many types of databases available, but what we are going to discuss is for relational databases. That means in a database, we have a related tables, or in other words, sometimes we use the term relations, right? So there will be a process that we have to follow, right? So here is the steps. I'm going to explain 6 steps, how you can convert ER into relational diagram. That means conceptual diagram to logical diagram, okay? So first, we are going to map regulated type. So what are the regulated types? We have employee, we have department, we have project, we have dependent. Sorry, only these 3. So this is V. 3 regular entities. Then we are going to map it weak entity types. We have one weak entity, that is depend. Okay. Third step, we'll map one-to-one relations. We are going to map one-to-one relations. So we have one-to-one relation here. Then we are going to map one-to-many relations. We have one-to-many here, one-to-many, one-to-many, even one-to-many. Then finally, we are going to map many-to-many. So we are going to map many-to-many relations. And finally, any multi-valued attributes. Okay, so those are the 6 steps I'm going to explain. Okay, so here is the theory part. How do you map regular entity type? Right? So that means here we have employee, we have a department, we have project, and we are going to describe how you are going to map regular entity types. Okay, so here is a theory that you need to remember. This might be confusing for the beginner, but if you try to carefully understand the process, it won't that difficult, right? So if you want to map regular entity types, here are the steps. First one, for each entity, we create relations and we include all the simple attributes. Okay. For each entity, we create a relation, meaning a table, and we going to add all the simple attributes. Let me go back to this. Right. Okay. So that means we have to create a relation. In other words, a table for employee. So let me put that somewhere. So maybe somewhere here I will type. We will say employee E, and then we include all the simple attributes. When we say simple, we can have social security number. Then here, name is a composite one. These are the simple ones. So we can say F name, middle initial, last name. All the simple attributes we are going to include. Then we have gender, address, and salary, and birthday. Right, that's the first step. Right, this is not the end, but we'll put it like this. So we take the regular type, we include all the simple attributes. Okay, similar to that, can you tell me how to transform project? You can try in the chat. Yes. Project is a regulated type, right? So we create a relation or a table for project. So how to do that? We'll say project. And I include name, number. Exactly. Name, number, and location. Okay, good. Telina, Bhagya gave me the answers. Good. What about the department? Can you try department? Only simple attributes. Only simple attributes. Yes, we have department. We have department name. I will put D name because project name also we said name, so I will put something. It's okay to have the same number, it's okay. And then we can have department number. That's all for the time. Good. So this is the first step, right? So the transformation, we take all the regularity types. Okay, so that's one. The next one is select one of the key attribute and then identify is the primary key. Okay. Now primary key means we are going to identify an attribute or a set of attribute to uniquely identify each of the records. So anyway, if you look at employee, we will have only one. So I'm going to underline this. This underlining means that we are going to take this as a primary key. Primary key means this can be used to uniquely identify each of the records. It's like our national ID number. Project, what do you think about the project? What can be taken as the primary key? Project, you have two key attributes. You can use either name or a number, but take one, right? So I will take the number, but you could have used name as well. One of these, not both, right? You take one. So this is unique. Take the department. Department also the same. Right now we have department name, department number, both can be taken, but only one. So let me use number because it's easier with the number. So that's why we have selected. But the correct answer is you can use either department name or a department number. Okay, good. I think we are quite okay with the first step, right? Shall we move to the second step then? Okay, let's move to the second step. Okay, so we will create a relation and then we include all the simple attributes. The second step I have already done. You choose one of the key attributes and you take it as a primary key. So we underline the primary key. All right? Right. So if you select, more than one, then you have to underline both. Okay. Second step. Okay, look at the weak entities. Weak entities. So in weak entities, you have to be a bit careful. First part is easy, same as previous. So you say for each weak entity type, then you have to create a relation and you include all the simple attributes, right? Same as previous. So if you go back, weak entity is dependent. We have 4 attributes. So we have to take, okay, I will go here. Right, I will take here. Then I'm just going to select, sorry. Right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have dependent. And I will include all the simple attributes. What are the simple attributes? Dependent name, again name, then gender, birth date, and relationship. So you include everything, right? So forgot this. This is social security number. This is number. This is again number. This is what we need. Okay, so now let's move on to the next one. Okay, second one, you have to get the primary key of the relation correspond to the owner entity type. Okay, what it means, you can see this is weak. You see double rectangles, and this connect to the owner means employee. So you have to get the primary key from this. That means the social security number. And that also needs to be included. So let me make that change. So what I'm going to do is, so I will take here, we will include social security number. And then what we do, we are going to connect both social security number and name, both as a primary key. Right. So let me go back. Right. So we say that in addition, include the foreign key attribute are the primary key attribute of the relation that correspond to the own entity type. And then combining primary key and the partial key will be the primary key. So we combine these two, both of them will be the primary key. Okay, let me go back and revisit what we did. So what we did, basically, we got all the attributes, regular ones, all the simple attribute we have listed, right? And then what we do, we find the primary key, one of the key attributes, and then we select them as a primary key. For a weak entity type, what we said, we include all the simple attributes and we get the key attribute from the owner. We select both of them and that will be the primary key. Right. Now we have worked with all the 4 entity types. Right. Let's move to the third step. Right. Third step is, let's map one-to-one relations. So this will again hanging out, like I will put somewhere else. Bit difficult this one, so let me remove those, but I hope you remember the primary keys. I will put down. So the first one is, how do you map one-to-one relations? So if you go back to our diagram, we can see how many one-to-one relations we have. Only this. When you have one-to-one relation, this is how we are going to map. Okay, so here is the theory. For each one-to-one relation, we identify 2 sides and S and T, right? For the participation relation R. So there are 3 possibilities what we can do. We can create a foreign key approach. What do you mean by foreign key? Let me explain. Now, foreign key means we are going to have a common attribute, combine the 2 relations, right? So which means we'll take one of the attributes and we can take to the other attributes where we can connect the two attributes. Usually we use primary key from the other attribute, right? So if you go back, let me explain. Now here is what we have, and here are the relations. So let me take the relations. Okay, so here are the relations we have. Now let's work on the managers. We want to have a connection between employee and the department. Now we know primary key. We have selected the primary key as a social security number, and this side we have a department. Now what we are going to do is to make this connection. In foreign key approach, we take one of these and put in the other relation. So that means we can have two answers. The two answers are, right? Let me type and show you. You take employee, my first answer. Employee. Primary key is social security number, and then I will put three dots. And then I can take department number. I will put department number like this. This is my first answer, right? To make the connection. And from the department, we can have add cities. So we have a department number and the three attributes. So this is one way to connect. What we did, we take department number, we put in the employee side. So we know that these two are common, so we can connect easily, right? Second option, other way around. We take employee. We have social security number. That social security number we put in the department side. So that we can make the connection. This is about managing, right? We are trying to manage. Now, can you tell me, which one do you think is more suitable? Now, let me explain like this. Now, this means that some of the employees works as managers, right? So one way is you can create attribute in the employee side. So that means if it is a table, you are going to have a department number. So every employee, you have a column where department number, and then we are going to say whether he's in the department number 1, 2, 3, and so on. That is one way to make the connection. In our department table, we have said, let's say, department number 1, let's say it's research department, department number 2, HR department, and so on. That is the first one. Second one is like, we are going to go to the department side, we put the social security number, right? Whoever the manager social security number, we put in the department side. In the previous one, employee, we put the department number. So if he works head for the manager for a department, you put the department. So which one is the best answer? Is it 1 or is it 2? Let me take an example. I think you might not understand. Let me put some data. It's like this. So the first answer, it's like this. Let's say 1. Let's say we have employee. Let me say this social security number is like 111. Then I will put 3 dots. So if he is a manager, only you will have a value. So if he is not a Manager, it will be empty. So usually empty will be represented as null. So let's take another employee. Let's say the second employee is a manager. So let's say he's managing department number 1. Let's say 333. He is not managing any department. So it will be null. Null means no value. 444, let's say he is managing department number 2. 555, he is not managing any department. So it will be null. So this is what will happen in the employee side. If you take this one. Right? Similar to that, if you take the second answer, right, department side, it will be like this. So it's like department. So let's say department number 1 is managed by 222. Department number 2 will be managed by 444. Which one is the best one? Is it 1 or is it 2? Yes?
2.
2 is best, right? Why 2 is best? We know that not all the employees works as managers. If you create a attribute in the employee side, there'll be a lot of empty values because only very few works as managers. So second one will be the best answer. So if you have one-to-one relation, if you use a foreign key approach, the best would be we can have the manager's social security number in the department side. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to update here, right? I will come here and then in the department, I will put social security number. So I will slightly modify this. I will say manager social security number so that it will not confuse. So manager social security number means the employee side. We put this side, which accommodate one-to-one relation. Now, since we put manager social security number here, and we have a start date also should come in this side. So we will put manager start date. Right? So like this. So we can put one-to-one relation. And you know, if you put number this side, there'll be a lot of null values. Therefore, we take the social security number, we put in the other side. Nirmal gave me a good answer. If you look at what Nirmal said, 2 is better because you can look at the total participation. Exactly, that is the best answer. When you have one-to-one relation, you can go to the total participations. Okay, so I hope you got the understanding about how we may work with the foreign keys. Foreign key will be simply you take the primary key from one relation, put in the other side. But which one is the best? When you have one-to-one relation, it should be in the total participation side. Okay, I didn't mention Nirmal's answer, but it will be in the my slide in the theory. So good, Nirmal, you are sharing the views on this. So let me go back. So I'm going to remove these tables. So I hope you understood how we made the decision. So let me go back to now the description. We said one-to-one mapping. So there are 3 possibilities actually, although what we have used is a foreign key approach. So as you read here, it says it is better to choose an entity type with total participation. Of course, Nirmal. So that is the best answer. where you use foreign key approach, right? There are two ways which we can use. Now, in our example, one side is total, other side is partial, right? But let's assume that if you have total participation in both sides, this is not true in our case. If you have one-to-one relation and if you have total participation, you can combine, which means we could combine employee and department together. But unfortunately, it's not the case. Third one, we are going to create a separate relation, right? What do you mean by separate relation? This is called cross-referencing. You can create a separate relation which we can combine primary keys from the both relation. It's something like this, which we are not going to do, but let me explain. So the other possibility or the common way to do this is we could have created, we take. The third possibility is something like this, which I will discuss this later on. We can create something like employee department. And we can combine both the primary keys, right? And include any attributes from the relation like this. And then you can create primary key by combining the two primary keys. So this is the third one, which we are not going to do in this case, but I will explain in many-to-many relation. Okay, good. Right. So let me explain one more and we'll finish for today. And we'll have two more that we will discuss in the next week. And then we can talk about how we can actually create tables using this structure, right? So we discussed now 3 regular entity types, weak entity types, one-to-one relations. Fourth step is one-to-many. It's easy. What you need to do is similar to previous one. We can go for foreign key approach. We go for the foreign key approach. And we put the primary key in the inside, many side. Right? So that's what we can do. And we can include any simple attributes again in this, right? If you want, you can use a separate relation, but you don't need to do that. So let me explain one, and then we'll finish for today. Right. So let me go back to my original, this one. Let's try works. Right. Let me take. Right. Now we are going to focus on one-to-many, right? So when you have one-to-many, let's look at employee and department again, but this time we are going to represent employee who works for the department, right? One-to-many relation. So which side we have to put this? It says inside. Inside means employee. So in the employee side, we put department number, right? So that means every employee works for a department. So his department details, we put it here. That's what it means, one-to-many relation. Okay, so that's all about how do you map ER diagram in the logical diagram, which will transform into tables. And the next step would be we can create this table using SQL or internet database, and then we can put the data in it. So which we will discuss in the next week. So hope that you got the basics that you need about the theory behind how do you, design a database from modeling perspective as a database, design, like an architect who designing in the, house or office. So you will start with the, designing this. So that's part we did with the ER. And then we transform into what we call the logical model, where we will identify tables and then primary keys and foreign keys. And then we can use SQL. We can make it to actually create the database. Any questions from what we have covered today? Okay. So if you have anything, just let me know. You can use a Google Classroom. And then I will also put down all the video recording. So let me stop for today.